Yeah, I think that the degradation of this campaign is at an all-time low. Part of it is because of the style that the campaign was launched in. You know, we did something this time that we've never done before. We've had these big national debates once a month, basically, or once before each of these big primaries. And it hasn't really engaged voters in a discussion on the issues. And even though I think the moderators have been good, sort of pulling stories out of candidates about where their positions are, there's been no pressure on these guys. So when you look at Donald Trump, the front runner, I mean, who's really put pressure on him on his tax bill and his economic plan, which he talks about in laudatory terms, but virtually everyone who scored it says this thing is $12 trillion over.
I'm surprised people aren't more upset about this.
Well, okay, so you're a campaign manager, so I got to ask you for some advice. I'm the candidate. He is blistering me. Every time I come at him with something substantial, he's making fun of my hands, my ears,
right.
my sweating. Yeah. And so you're
Bad
my campaign manager,
right.
And now what do you tell me to do? Because I can't get through. The sound bites that he's delivering to the mainstream media are overwhelming me. Go ahead.
I think it's very simple, this formula on Trump, and I think you have to go back 8 months when he really started to emerge as a legitimate candidate in this race, is you needed to have been a containment strategy. His voters like that, right? The people who are core Trump voters want to see him rip apart the establishment, rip apart Washington, make everybody look foolish. They're for that. They really don't care whether he's got an economic policy or how he's going to defeat ISIS. And so what you've got to do is contain him by then wrapping around him things like the fact that he hasn't disclosed his taxes, that his plan is over budget, you know, that he doesn't have a plan, that he, wants to violate the law by torturing
so every
prisoners.
candidate has tried to do that. It's not
But they really
working.
haven't. I mean, when you look at it, the first 6 months of his campaign, people were scared of him. Not one candidate would want to engage him. In fact, one of the biggest efforts in this area was Carly Fiorina in that first debate, where she graduated up from the junior debate into the senior debate primarily because of one thing. She took on Donald Trump. After that, how many people really took a shot at him? Until very recently.
I think Governor Bush, though, would say that he was after him and
last
he was
3
trying.
debates. First 6 debates, it was all about his laziness or his, what was it, his energy level.
Low energy.
And even when he tried to, how many times did Donald Trump shush him and he just backed right off?
Yeah.
And they weren't attacking him on his plans, right? They fell into the same trap, right, that they started talking to him about, you know, these superficial things.
I don't think it was the lack of attacks in the debates, which Jeb tried to do. It was the lack of attacks outside of the debates. How did the super PACs spend their money?
You're 100% right.
Jeb Bush was running Marco Rubio ads, making fun of his boots. These boots are made for whatever the jingle
$100 million
was.
spent out of Right to Rise, $9 million spent attacking Donald Trump. That's insane.
Let me switch gears now because, you know, listen, you know, you don't have to be super smart to realize this. It's very likely he's going to be the nominee. Senator McCain, you're good friends with him, says the establishment is going to support him. What do you recommend to the establishment?
Well, you know, it's interesting because I think the establishment is starting to fray on this issue. Front page of the Wall Street Journal today, you know, Mel Martinez, a venerated former senator from Florida, key state, and a spokesman from the Republican Party to the Hispanic community says, I'm not voting for the guy. Well, now, if you say you're not voting for the guy, then who are you going to vote for? Hillary Clinton? I mean, I think this is the kind of movement,
you give it to Hillary Clinton. If you don't vote and you stay home, you give it to Hillary.
I'm a Republican. I want to be on side with the Republicans. I just tell you, I'm a Republican. I want to be on side with the Republicans.
Well, but
will you?
But you know what, Maria?
After my Establishment Anonymous meeting at 4 p.m., I'm going to let you know, okay? But I have to get over the fact that my 2 candidates did not make it. Right. But let's face it, I don't want Hillary Clinton to make the Supreme Court justice decisions, the macroeconomic decisions for the United States.
So that being said, a lot of Republicans.
Then that wing of the party needs to coalesce around one candidate, right? And we can't have these guys, 6, 7 candidates running around the field. Now it's 4. Yeah. And if it was 1, you might stand a chance, even at this late date, of being able to take a challenge to Donald Trump. But where's the pressure? Where's the demands that are being put on the party? Cruz and Rubio, you know, who's going to survive this? If Cruz wins Texas and Rubio wins Florida or loses Florida, does that mean Rubio has to get out and support Cruz?
One of them needs to support the other.
Where's Jeb Bush? Jeb Bush got out of the race a week ago.
Mitt Romney comes into the race late? Comes into the race late, Mitt Romney?
You've got to have an opening to come into the race late, and you have to have an organization, and you have to have a campaign.
I don't know if it's going to work.
And the reality is late is too late right now.
Is it too late for Marco Rubio? I mean, I got to give him credit for what he's now. He's finally punching back. Is it too little, too late?
You know, we'll find out a little bit tonight, right? Because at this stage, everyone's going to win delegates if they get to this 20% threshold in most of these states. So Texas is a good example, right? 100 of the 155 delegates are going to be allocated by congressional district, and then 55 of them are going to be, basically allocated statewide.
Is Chairman Priebus preparing for a brokered convention?
First of all, I think Chairman Priebus needs to just prepare for a convention. He should play absolutely no role in what happens as an outcome to the convention.
But I think
his
he's done that, in fairness
to give us
to him.
A platform.
I think he's done that. He's tried to be out of the way. He's tried to be neutral.
But I think, listen, I got to get this in. I think we're all missing the broader point here. It's not about what the establishment is doing or not doing. It's about what the conservative establishment is doing. National Review, Weekly Standard, Ben Sass, Senator Sass, who has the 4th most conservative voting record in the Senate, said, I will not vote for Donald Trump if he's the nominee.
So what is he going to do?
It's not going to be Bloomberg that's running as a third party, guys. It's going to be a conservative to the right of Donald Trump that's running as a third party, and that's what we're all missing. It's not the establishment.
Before anybody gets too excited, having actually looked at running independent campaigns for president in 2000 when McCain lost at a very late date, right after Super Tuesday, which was well beyond where this is, McCain gave way to George W. Bush. Frankly, even though he could have continued to wage a campaign, I mean, he had the energy that Trump has now, filling stadiums full of people. And when you look at an independent candidacy, it is a completely different thing than actually having a third party.
Yeah,
you'd have to literally today start carrying ballots in the state of Texas, 80,000, divided up by all those congressional districts, and it's not going to happen. And there's only one person in America who's got the resources to do that, and that's Mike Bloomberg.
I disagree. I think that it's going to be Ted Cruz. If he doesn't get it, I think he's running as a third-party conservative. He can organize in Texas. He's the only candidate.
And you think this will work?
No, I'm not saying it'll work. This is just my analysis of what I think will happen.
Okay. It'll make Ross Perot look good.
Well, you made a big point, though. The duopoly is super strong, and they strengthened
the rules are set against
and they strengthened it after the Ross Perot debacle, and so they only want those 2 candidates. And now, like in all democracies, the people get what they deserve.
History does repeat itself.
Yeah, I mean, the reason that I keep coming back to will it work is because if you're going to sit it out and not vote because you're angry about Trump, you're only giving it to the other side.
Yeah. I would say it's not too late. I think your point about if Rubio wins in Florida, and they're able to settle this sort of inter-party dispute as to who's going to be the candidate to oppose Donald Trump, then you have a lot of primaries to go and a lot of delegates to allocate. And the reality is you may not get anybody to the magic number of 1,200. So you then go to the convention and you hack it out. And if it's an anybody but Trump campaign, which is exactly what we're hearing, and Trump doesn't have a majority, he won't be the nominee. So I think there are options available, but it's going to require people to step aside, put their party and their country ahead of their own political ambitions, and start doing the right thing.
Real quick, can Trump beat Hillary in the general?
Can Trump beat Hillary? Well, look, Hillary's not a great candidate, right? She's allowed a fringe candidate. We've got our own issues with fringe candidates, but she's allowed a fringe candidate to define this entire election. I mean, look at Bernie Sanders. He's going to go the distance. He just announced he raised $40 million this quarter.
How is that possible?
I mean, he's going to continue to prosecute a campaign against her all the way to the convention. So I think she's got to worry about her own party before she starts worrying about Donald Trump.
Yeah, that's really good stuff.